G'day everyone, welcome back. If you're planning to cross the Nullarbor anytime soon, or even thinking about one day crossing the Nullarbor, then stick around for this video as I bust a number of Nullarbor myths. Okay, so we recently crossed the Nullarbor and there was a few concerns or a few myths that I had in my head that weren't accurate, and I wanted to share those with you today. The first myth bust that I want to do is fuel availability. Now, before I did the Nullarbor, I was concerned. I thought it was just this giant road that drove out in the middle of nowhere with no communication, no shops, barely any fuel or anyone around to communicate with. Now, fuel, I soon realised, and after a bit of research, I realised that the Nullarbor is just over 1,200 kilometres long, and there's 11 fuel stations across the way. And I don't think that you drive any more than 200 kilometres before hitting the next fuel station. But in saying that, one of my good friends gave me some good advice, and advice I want to share with you here too, is that you should never let your vehicle get below half a tank. And the reason I say that is, fuel stations all vary in price, and I hate to bring it up, but the two dearest fuel stations that I came across was, as we're heading west, Border Village Roadhouse. The fuel station right next to Border Village Roadhouse was $2.98 a litre, and admittedly that is the middle of the Nullarbor, smack bang in the middle. It's probably the most remote location of them all. But in saying that, we actually stayed at the Border Village Roadhouse, and I woke up the next morning and I just had a look into the Bowsers to see how much fuel was, and I saw that it was $2.98, and I thought, oh, but luckily we had half a tank. And I drove down, after checking the fuel app that I'll share with you on the screen here now, we drove down to Ucla, which is only about 15 kilometres down the road, and I paid 50 cents a litre less at Ucla. And that was a trick. I found that the fuel price varies right across the Nullarbor, and if you do come across a fuel depot that's dear, you've still got that half a tank where you can drive to the next one, which is, as I said, within 200 kilometres, and fill up there. Coming back to the east, I found the dearest roadhouse was the Nullarbor Roadhouse itself, and admittedly this was when the Trumpy war was on and they closed the Humber Strait, but that was $4.05 per litre. This is diesel. I'm in my little diesel motorhome. $4.05 a litre at the Nullarbor Roadhouse. And once again, I had over half a tank, so I thought, no. And we drove to the next one, which was Penang. And it's a bit of a drive, but still doable with half a tank of petrol. And again, Penang was around 50 to 60 cents a litre cheaper. So, number one advice, never let yourself go below half a tank of fuel, because if it's dear, you just bypass it to the next one, and you'll usually find there's a varying difference in fuel prices. And keep an eye on your fuel apps. Get an Australian wide fuel app and look it up, and you can see the fuel availability as well as the fuel prices. Okay, can I just ask a quick favour and get you guys to click that like button? If you're in the YouTube app, click that like button. It does my channel the world of good, puts a smile on my face as well. Leave a comment if you have time to. Thank you. Another little concern that I had was how much I was going to spend on fuel, and it's quite easy for us to work out. Our little motorhome almost gets 1,000 litres per tank, which is really good. I've got a 100 litre tank, and it gets around 10 to 11 litres per 100 kilometres. On our entire trip, we travelled 6,000 k's from East Coast New South Wales over to West Coast near Perth. We did 6,000 k's there, and we did 5,000 k's on the way back, so 11,000 k's, and this cost us roughly about 2,200. So if you've got that in your head, you know it's not going to be a shock when you see your pay disappearing. Okay, another point I wanted to highlight is that being 1,200 kilometres long, the Nullarbor has stock-up towns. To the east, it's Ceduna, and then 1,200 kilometres to the west is Norseman. Now, admittedly, there's roadhouses where you can get your basics and odds and sods and hamburgers and chips and top up with whatever you need, but they're very limited. So my advice was to stop up at either Ceduna or even Streaky Bay. We stocked up at Streaky Bay, which is only about, I think, 75 k's east of Ceduna, and we made sure that when we left Ceduna we had a full supply of food. And once again, I didn't know how long it would take to cross the Nullarbor, but in actual fact, we only did 2 stops on the way over. We were going to do 3, and I'll get to the time zone thing a little later on, but because the time went backwards, we were able to drive that a little bit further each day and made it to the spots that we wanted to stay at. Likewise, when you're heading back east, you'll get to Norseman, there's IGAs and little supermarkets there, fuel, water, stock up there, and it will take you 3 days to get across the Nullarbor, and just make sure you have 3 days worth of supplies, which in our little van, we've got quite a big fridge and plenty of cupboard space. We've got about 1 to 2 weeks worth of supplies. So that was a bit of a myth that I was concerned about that I didn't need to worry about. Okay, accommodation, another myth busted. I was concerned, I can't believe that I was actually concerned about not having anywhere to stay when you're crossing the Nullarbor. How wrong was I? There's roadhouses all across the way that have powered sites and unpowered sites. There's farm stays, and there's also free camps all along the way. There's literally thousands of spots where you can stop across the Nullarbor, and after doing it once, I think that the next time we cross the Nullarbor, both east and west, I think I'm going to free camp the whole way, because the roadhouses do supply you power. You can't fill up water, but they do supply you water. But this little motorhome that we've got here, I've got 100 litres of water, I've got a massive fridge, heaps of cupboards, and we can comfortably stay off the grid in some of these little free camps. And I notice all the free camps have bins, and some of the free camps also have toilets, but not showers. So we've got a shower in this. We can have the same comfort staying for free in the middle of nowhere at a free camp than we can have at any roadhouse. Yeah, but if you're worried, and we always found that whenever we went past a roadhouse and checked availability of sites, there was always powered sites available. Farm stays, we stayed at Fraser's Range. Again, we didn't book, maybe we're just lucky, but we didn't book anywhere. We just rolled on up, went to the office, and we always had accommodation available for us at roadhouses, farm stays, and naturally also at the free camp. So worrying about a place to stay the night isn't a concern at all. If you're crossing the Nullarbor, no matter what time of year, you'll always get a site. Even if you have to free camp, you'll never be without a place to pull over and rest for the night. Okay, another myth busted. I was worried about being able to find places to stay. Where do I stay? How do I find them? Well, the Nullarbor is just one road. The good thing about the Nullarbor is even I can't get lost. There's one straight road, and I use an app on my phone called WikiCamps, and I've also got the Camps 13 book, and they're really simple. You just open up the pages and you can follow the Nullarbor along. All the camp rest stops and roadhouses and farm stays, they're all numbered, and you can see what they have. I think when I go free camping next time, I'm going to look for rest stops with a toilet, because if I have a rest stop with a toilet, I've virtually got the same comforts as what I would have if I stayed at a roadhouse. And some of the free camps are beautiful, in particular Tomato Cliffs, and there's places along the Bunder Cliffs, middle of nowhere, a big ocean view, bush views to the back. It's beautiful, and there's nothing to be worried about. There's usually other campers there as well, and I found that the rest stops were really nice. I'd prefer to stay there than some of the roadhouses. The roadhouses were right on the main drag, whereas some of these rest stops, even though you pull up at the front of the road, there's tracks that go hundreds of metres back. So that's what I'll be doing next time. Now that I'm a Nullarbor veteran, I'll definitely go further back off the road and stay at some of these beautiful rest stops. Like I said, a lot of them have toilets and bins and all the comforts that you need, so why pay when you can stay for free? Another concern I had, another myth that I had with the Nullarbor, was being able to contact anyone if I ever found ourselves in trouble. If we broke down or just wanted to phone home or text a message to our family. And that's why we ended up getting Starlink. Now there's a number of options you can take, but we went for the Starlink option, which means we had full internet connectivity and we had mobile connection as well. I could text my family and let them know where we were, send some pictures through, but also I found Google Maps. When we're driving through areas with no reception and you pull over and switch off, you lose your Google Maps, and if you haven't got reception when you turn the engine back over, you haven't got your Google Maps anymore. Not that you need it for the Nullarbor, it's a big long straight, but it's still nice, especially when you're leaving the Nullarbor going down to WA or back into South Australia. But Starlink, even though it's quite expensive, it's nearly $200 a month for the unlimited package. I found it really good because we had the Google Maps, the navigation never ended. We were nerdy, and sometimes we'd have movie nights in here. We'd watch Netflix movies at night, snuggled up on the lounge, having a nice feed, watching Netflix in the middle of nowhere. Was fantastic. I think we had a movie night nearly every second night when we were crossing the Nullarbor, and it was really cool. It sort of felt like, God, you got all the comforts of home and we're out in the middle of nowhere. It's a real buzz. Another tricky, or not really tricky, but another interesting fact is that the time changes as you're heading across the country, throw you out of whack. As I said, we left South Coast, New South Wales, and we left in daylight saving. So when we entered South Australia, it went back an hour. The time went back 1 hour, and then as we crossed the WA border, it went back 2 lots of 45 minutes. Now I can't remember how far apart these were, but it was really weird leaving somewhere at 3 o'clock, driving for a couple hours, and getting somewhere at 3 o'clock. Yeah, it sort of throws you out of whack. It's good going west, and it's sad coming back east, because before you know it, I think, God, I've only been driving a few hours and it's night time. But basically, like I said before, Nullarbor, 1,200 kilometres long. I plan to do 3-4 hour drives, and that's enough. Yeah. Another scary thought that I had about the Nullarbor was all these road trains and wide loads and oversized loads passing us. But I found all these trucks sit on 100 k's, and I found if I sit on 103, 105 k's, it's a 110 kilometre limit. I never had to worry about a big B double or semi-trailer overtaking me. In fact, it was only myself that was overtaking them and a few caravans. But the Nullarbor has a lot of nice big straights, and they're easy to overtake. I had this little UHF handheld radio, and it was brilliant. Not only did I talk to the truckies and the truckies talked to me, but a few times there I was travelling behind a wide load, and I'd actually eavesdrop on them. They'd have a security car to the rear and to the front of them, and I even heard the security car saying, "Oh mate, there's a little motorhome right behind you, ready to overtake." And I'd say, "Oh, that's me," and he'd actually slow down and move over to the left a little, and I'd shoot past and say, "Thanks guys." And it was just good to be able to talk to them before you overtake, and I think for them before I was overtaking them, so we both know what each other's doing. Also caravans, they're a little bit slower than the van, and I was following a caravan for a while there, and he even said to me, "Mate, I'm going to pull over at the next rest stop in about 10 k's. If you want to overtake me there, go right ahead." And naturally I did that. And I found the communication on the Nullarbor was really good. I saw a poor bugger have a prang, a semi-trailer had a prang. He sort of went off the side of the road, and I radioed to him. I said, "Are you okay, mate?" He said, yeah, I've got a tow truck on the way. No dramas, keep going on your travels." So it's just nice to know that there's people out there letting you know what each other's doing on the road, but also if anyone needs a hand or needs help, you can talk to them and get them help. So that was another little bonus, and this was only about 300 bucks at Autobahn. Okay, so I touched on this before, water usage. I thought this long, endless Nullarbor stretch, will I have enough water? And like I mentioned before, we've got 100 litres of water, and we like to have a shower every day. And when we were travelling across the Nullarbor, we didn't really consciously become water misers. Probably the only time that we were careful about our water was when we were having a shower, and we both had 1-minute showers. But yeah, boiling on the kettle, washing and wiping up, having a few drinks, having a shower. We had a full tank of water at Ceduna, and we got to Norseman with about a quarter of a tank, and that was being fairly blasé with our water. And we knew that Norseman we were going to be able to get a refill tank. So again, the Nullarbor, if you've got 100 litres of water, that's more than enough. Have short showers and just do what you normally do. If it was any longer than that, I'd probably be a bit stricter on it, but we were pretty much very casual with our water and water usage. Okay, another concern is wildlife on the road, and you do not want to hit any wildlife, because not only are you injuring them, but you're also probably riding off the front of your van. Now, when we were away, we saw kangaroos, we saw camels, we saw emus, we saw an echidna, and we saw possums. So And that was through the day, and they were sort of running right beside our van. But as everyone tells me, do not drive across the Nullarbor at dawn or at dusk or through the night, because that's when the wildlife are most active and you will end up hitting something if you're not careful. So we made sure that we did all our driving through daylight hours, and even though we saw the odd kangaroo and odd emu, we only saw one camel, which is more than enough. Yeah, we could see them from a mile away, and as they were sort of running towards the road we were able to slow down. But at night your vision is more impaired and they'll shoot out in front of you, and you do not want to hit any sort of wildlife at all. So yeah, stick to daytime driving only. And finally, checkpoints. There's 2 checkpoints on your way over to WA. There's one at Ceduna and there's another one at Border Village, and basically the officers there just want to make sure that you're not taking any fruit and vegetables over the border past Ceduna and then once again past Border Village. They've got a bit of a fruit fly problem and they just want to reduce the chances of that enhancing. So no fruit and veggies, so you've got to plan your meals around it. We had a nice big fruit and veggie day on our last day at Streaky Bay before Ceduna, and we also had a nice big veggie cook up at the Border Village Roadhouse, which is only about 200 metres east of the Border Village checkpoint. So basically, you know, you can cook sausages and chips. And one interesting point that I wanted to highlight too is they come in and they check your fridge, and they also check your main cupboards. It's fruit and veggies and honey. So if you have your van free of those as you cross the border, there won't be any dramas. You are also allowed to have frozen, I had frozen berries and frozen bananas in the freezer, and the girl said that's fine. If you've got them frozen fruit is fine. It's a bit of a tongue twister. Frozen fruit is fine. So, you know, we could still make our smoothies the following day. We just had to rough it without our veggies. But, you know, use your imagination. Hot chips and bangers is the way to go if you're crossing the border and there's not much else on the menu. I also noticed they're very strict on the way over. Driving through the Ceduna checkpoint, when I say very strict, they're lovely people. They have a bit of a chat to you. Just check your fridge and just check your main cupboards for fruit and veggies. Once again, it's the same at Border Village. But on the way back, I noticed they're not as strict. We threw out all our fruit and veggies heading back east just before Border Village, and there are areas, dump zones where you can dump all your fruit and veggies, and there's signs on what you can and can't take over the border with you. They didn't really check at Border Village. They weren't really concerned. They just give you a wave through. So it's a bit of an honesty system there. And then the checkpoint at Ceduna heading back east was also just as strict as the other ones. Once again, lovely people, had a bit of a gas bag. I think I threw out a few things that I didn't need to. I think sweet potatoes was one of them. She said you didn't need to chuck them out. But anyway, I chucked them out and we survived. So yeah, it's just one thing to keep in mind, and just plan your meals around it. Make sure you eat all your lovely fruit and veggies before you cross those borders, and work out a meal that's pretty good that will suit you when you get over those borders. There's plenty of things you can eat besides fruit and veggies. I spent my life eating Maccas without fruit and veggies. So that's just one thing you have to keep in mind when you're heading over. Okay, so that sort of wraps it up. The Nullarbor was quite an interesting drive, even though we had some beautiful stops over in WA and South Australia and country New South Wales and Victoria. The Nullarbor wasn't boring at all. People say Nullaboring. I say no, it's not Nullaboring. There's quite a few beautiful little spots to say. We definitely loved stopping off at the Penang Wind Farm. I loved the old telegraph station. I absolutely loved, and I was so excited to see the Bunda Cliffs, and some of those, as I said, some of those free camps there parking along the Bunda Cliffs, beautiful. Actually, the Tomato Cliffs are the area just west of the Bunda Cliffs. A lot of the Bunda Cliffs is illegal to stay now because there's a lot of erosion and they're sort of dropping into the ocean, and you don't want to drop into the ocean. So we stopped at the Tomato Cliffs, and it was probably one of my most favourite stays along the way. So Nullaboring, not at all. Alright, so if you like this video, please consider subscribing, liking, and share with anyone that you think needs a Nullarbor trip. And I'll see you in the next video. Safe travels, everyone, and hook in, because we only live once. Hooroo!